Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome, dear students. This is Miss Layla Al-Jihani. Inshallah, today we will continue our unit, Who Used My Toothpaste? Today, inshallah, we will cover two lessons about you and conversation. Lessons 7 and 8. Before we start, let's recall what we covered in our previous lesson. In our previous lesson, we covered the listening. We listened for specific information in a conversation about whom. We listened to the conversation and we answered the related questions. We also focus on pronouncing the vowel sound followed by R. We focused on the R sound after certain vowels and how it is different from word to word, okay? Inshallah, today, by the end of the lesson, you will be able to ask and answer questions related to household chores, answer questions based on a given conversation, okay? And use new vocabulary in a new conversation, okay? We will use the new vocabulary in writing our own conversation, similar to the one we will read. In About You, if you open your books, page 42, you will see a list of questions. This list of questions, it should be answered based on you. We will go through it one by one. Let's read the first question. Do you have obligations at home? What do you have to do? Here, the question is, do you have obligations? What do they mean? Do you have something, duties at home? Yani your mother or your father, do they ask you to do specific things at home? Some chores, like for example, taking out the garbage outside or doing the dishes or doing the laundry. Do you have some obligations, duties, things you do? If yes, tell us, what do you have to do? You would say, for example, yes, I have many things to do. I'm responsible for taking out the garbage and cleaning the dishes, okay? There is a spelling mistake here, so it should be dishes, okay? Now moving on to the second question. Do members of your family share household chores? Do all of you have your own duties, or only you do the work? Are you the oldest and you are the only one responsible to do things, or each one of you have their things? Tell us about your family. Do you have different things to do? Yes, everyone has his or her own chores. For example, your mother may ask you to do the dishes and may ask your sister to do the laundry, for example, okay? Question 3, do you share a room? If yes, do you have any problems? Do you have your own room, or you share it with one of your sisters or one of your brothers, okay? If you share, do you have any problems with your siblings? Do you fight over things? Can you tell us about the issues, the problems you face with your siblings? Like, for example, privacy, or using your things without asking, okay? So these are some of the things. No, I don't have a shared room, you can say, or yes, I do. Sometimes we fight over the light, who will turn on or off, the light on or off, okay? Question 4, do other family members use your things? What are the things? The question here, your personal things like your clothes, your bags, your shoes, your abayas, your thobes, anything, something, it's yours. Do other members of your family use your things, your laptop, your computer? Do they? So if they do, say yes, they do, and tell us what are the things they use. Okay, yes, they do. Sometimes they use my laptop. This is an example. Tell your friends about you. Now, question 5, what things shouldn't you share? Things you shouldn't share with your family. We talked about things we share with our family, صح? Like sometimes they use your laptop, sometimes they borrow your bags, they borrow your shoes, okay? So tell us about the things you shouldn't share, things you can't share with your family. Can you think about things we cannot share, we cannot give to our family to use and give it back? Can you think? Our title, the unit title, excellent. The unit title, toothpaste. Who used my toothpaste? Toothpaste, I think it's okay, but what about toothbrush? Can they use your toothbrush? No, they can't. So you shouldn't share your toothbrush. This is something personal. This is only you can use it, okay? Question 6, what things do you think it is possible to share? We said we cannot share a toothbrush, صح? Can you think about things we can share with our family? Like we can share a laptop, excellent. We can share our clothes, for example, if we wear the same size, okay? It's okay to share your shoes, bags, and some of your things like laptop, etc. Question 7, what do you think are the most common problems of people sharing the same space? What do they mean? When you are sharing the same space, sharing the same room with someone, can you think about the common problems? We said sometimes we fight over the light. Who will turn it on? Who will turn it off? This is one of the common problems. Can you think about other things? Other problems? Excellent. Using your things without asking. Thinking that you have the same room, it's allowed to use your things. This is one of the common problems. They might have problems with keeping the room clean. Sometimes you would fight over the room, how you can keep it clean. Maybe the person you are sharing the room with will throw their things on the floor and you have to pick it up, so you would fight over this thing, okay? Question 8, what can people do to avoid having these problems? Fighting over the light, fighting over the privacy, their things, fighting over the room, how is it clean or not? How can we avoid this problem? We stop having these problems in our rooms. How can we do it? Maybe we divide the work, excellent. You will tell your sister or your brother, please do this. You will ask them to keep the room clean. You will divide the work. You will ask nicely to avoid problems, okay? They can divide the chores and respect each other's privacy. They can divide, you can say, I will vacuum the room, you will have to tidy it up, for example, okay? Now, we finished about you questions. Now, moving on to the conversation, page 43. You look at the pictures, and you have different pictures on your book also. You would see a boy, and he has a suitcase. He just arrived in a home, and someone is welcoming the boy, صح? Do you think they are related? Yes, I agree. I think they are related. Maybe. We don't know. We will read the conversation together. Do you think the boy reached his house? Do you think he is in his house, sitting in the sofa? Everything is dirty, and his room is messy. Do you think he is staying in that house? Yes, he is staying in there. But do you think it's his house? We don't know. Maybe it's his house. Maybe he is visiting. But do you think this is acceptable? To just watch TV, doing nothing, not helping out around the house. Do you think this is acceptable? This is okay? No, it isn't, okay? So who is the young man? We will know when we read the conversation. We have, I think, two names, Sylvia and Karen. I believe I forgot the names. They are two female who are talking to each other. I think they are talking about the boy, okay? Do you think he is in his home or he isn't? We're not sure. We will see when we read the conversation. We will learn the issue, okay? Before we read and listen to the conversation, we have these three questions. Okay, let's read the questions first. Question 1, how long did Greg stay? So the boy's name is Greg. We discovered when we read only the questions. So how long did Greg stay? So he stayed in that place, in that home. How long? Okay, the duration. Was he welcome at his aunt's house at first? So do you think this is his house? No, this is his aunt's house, okay? What complaints did Karen have about her nephew? So I think she had some complaints, some issues with her nephew. Why do you think, what is the complaints? What did she say about him? So you have to think about these things when you are reading and listening to the conversation. Okay, we have this first part. Let's hear the conversation together. Bismillah.
So, Karen, has your nephew left yet?
Yes, Greg has already gone. At long last.
How long did he stay?
Almost 3 months. He was doing a research project here at the university. When he arrived, I said, "Make yourself at home." And he did just that.
But he seemed like such a nice young man.
Oh, he is, and I was happy to help out. The trouble is that he took over our house. He used our things and never put them back. He never cleaned up after himself, and I've never seen anyone eat so much. One day I walked into the living room, and there was Greg eating and making a mess, with his feet on the furniture.
That's a bit too much, isn't it?
That's what I thought.
So what did you say to him?
Okay, we heard the conversation. There was an issue, صح? What is the main issue? What was the problem with Karen? Why she was annoyed? Because Greg, what did Greg do? He didn't clean up after himself. He made himself at home, not cleaning after, and he took over, she said, he took over their house. Okay, this was the main issue with Karen, the main problem. Okay, now he stayed for 3 months and wasn't a good guest. This is the answer. He stayed for a long time and he wasn't a good guest. We said why. He didn't clean after himself. He didn't keep the house clean. Now, trying to answer the questions about you related to the conversation. How long did Greg stay? It's in the conversation. Try to answer it. Yes, he stayed for almost 3 months. He stayed almost for 3 months. This is the answer for the first question. Now, question 2, was he welcome at his aunt's house at first? At the beginning, was his aunt welcoming? Yes, she was. صح? Yes, he was. He was welcomed. Okay? She welcomed her nephew. What complaints did Karen have about her nephew? What are the complaints? Excellent. Karen took over the house. He used their things and didn't put them back. He never cleaned up and he ate in the living room. These are the issues related to Karen and her nephew. Okay? Now, looking back at the conversation, okay, look at the end of the conversation. So, what did you say to him? She complained and her Karen complained, صح? And her friend Sylvia, she asked, what did you say to him? And we have different responses. What do you think Karen said to Greg at the end? Greg, please eat in the kitchen, not in here. Or Greg, I don't know how you behave at home, but in our house we have some rules. Or 3, Greg, don't you think it's time you started cleaning up after yourself? Or what do you think you would say if you are in her shoes? If you have someone around the house and he did what Greg did, do you think it's acceptable? No, it isn't. So which response would you do? Or do you have any idea, anything else you can say to Greg? Okay, share your thoughts with your friends. Now, looking at the conversation, we have here this phrase, at long last. Yes, Greg has already gone at long last. Who did say it? Karen said it, صح? Why does she say it? Why did she say at long last? Because what? She wanted Greg to leave for a long time before he did. She was waiting for him to leave, okay? She wasn't feeling welcoming when he did what he did around the house. He didn't clean up after himself, okay? Also, we have this phrase, that's a bit too much, isn't it? Here, Sylvia, she said, that's a bit too much. What did she refer to? Why did she say what was a bit too much? What is the thing she thought it's a bit too much? From here. Excellent. Because Greg was eating in the living room and making a mess with his feet on the furniture. He didn't respect his aunt's house and her rules. That's why Sylvia said that's a bit too much. Okay, now looking at this part of the conversation, that's a bit too much. Who said this phrase? That's a bit too much. Sylvia said it, صح? Why do you think she said this phrase? What was a bit too much? She was referring to what? Can you think? What? Excellent. What Greg said, what Greg did around the house. Greg was eating in the living room and making a mess with his feet on the furniture. Okay? When Karen said this phrase, Sylvia said that's a bit too much. Does Karen mind that Greg was eating in the living room? Did she mind? Was it okay? She didn't. She did mind, so we say yes. She didn't like what Greg did. Okay? Now for the real talk, we looked at long last. We said the meaning is finally. When something took longer than you expected and it's finally done and finished, you would say at long last. This is one of the phrases we use. That's a bit too much. That has gone too far. That has gone too far. This is the meaning of this phrase. Okay? Now your turn. Role play the conversation. Make up a reply for Greg. I wanted to work with a partner. Try to ask Greg questions related to his stay in his aunt's house. What do you think Greg would feel? Do you think he's feeling the same as his aunt Karen did? Or you think he was okay, he didn't mind, he was doing as what he does around the house? Okay? Try to, one of you will be Greg and one will be a reporter. And we have B here, interview Greg. We have to interview Greg about his stay with his aunt. So I think either you can choose A or B. You don't have to do both. It's similar. we're talking to Greg and we're asking him question about his stay with his aunt. So imagine you are on a talk show. The topic of today's show is living with others. Greg is a guest on the show and talks about his stay with his aunt. So you are the reporter and you're asking Greg questions, and let's imagine the conversation. Okay, we have this conversation. So Greg, has you left your aunt's house yet? We started with this question. Yes, at long last. It was fun staying there. So we used the at long last, which means finally. How long did you stay? Almost 3 months. I was doing a research project there at the university. When I arrived, she said, make yourself at home, and I did just that. Okay, this is Greg's response. What do you think your aunt felt about your stay? She was happy, but I think that I took over her house and used her things and never put them back. I never cleaned up after myself. So he did something wrong. So the answer will be, that's a bit too much, isn't it? Yeah, I think so. So this is a conversation. We use the real talk phrases. We interviewed Greg when we listened to his responses about his staying with his aunt. Okay, so let's see, what did we cover in our lesson today? We asked and answer questions related to household chores, answer questions based on a given conversation, use new vocabulary in new conversation, as we said. Okay, now for the fun fact part for today, the Mona Lisa has no eyebrows. This is the picture of the Mona Lisa. So the fact is, Mona Lisa, she doesn't have any eyebrows. This is one of the facts. I was surprised, and I wanted to share this information with you. Hopefully this is fun. That's it for today. Thank you for listening, and inshallah I will see you next class.